Hi guys, hope you're all doing okay. My name's Ash, you'll know me as Brom18. Today I want to give you my FIFA 22 gameplay sliders for career mode and offline. If you're new to the channel, welcome along. Thanks very much for joining. Make sure if you do enjoy this video to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload. Also, don't forget to check out my Patreon. The link is in the description, where you can get access to my FIFA 22 custom tactics packages, where I give you deep dives on all the real tactics we cover on the channel, as well as all of the stuff like Discord server access, behind the scenes videos, early access, PES 21 tactics package, all that good stuff. Right then, on to the sliders. Now, a couple of quick disclaimers before we go into this. One, with sliders, you can only do so much. When you alter the shot error, for example, it only affects regular shots, not finesse shots, not headers. When you alter the pass error, it only does ground passes and not through balls or lob through balls or lobbed passes. So, do they completely change the gameplay? No. Do they make it more bearable, a bit more realistic, a bit more tolerable? Absolutely yes. I much prefer playing with these sliders than the original settings. Second disclaimer, I'm going to title this version 1.0 because these sliders will change. Throughout the course of FIFA 22, they'll be adapted, they'll change with updates as well. Things will change. Also, I would have liked to work on these a bit more, but so many of you have been asking me in the comment section for what my sliders are. I can't hold off anymore. I've got to give you guys something. So this is version 1.0. Expect these to change over the course of the season, and then I'll release new videos. Right then, let's have a quick talk about the gameplay settings first. Now, these sliders are for either legendary or world class. Now, I will tell you how to tweak them slightly on world class to make them a little bit more difficult, because that's also what these sliders are trying to do. Not only are they trying to make it more realistic, make the gameplay more tolerable, but also a bit more of a challenge as well. So we'll start off with legendary. The half length I'll have on either 5 or 6 minutes, and the reason why is that if you have it on any longer, defending is already hard enough on this game. When you have it for like 7-8 minute halves, etc., all of a sudden you're just going to get lots more goals, and that's not realistic. Sometimes there's going to be 0-0, sometimes there's going to be like 1-0s and stuff. It can't be just constant goals all the time, and that's really what we're trying to limit here. With the player-based difficulty, now I've got this off. Now this is something that might be tweaked a later version 2.0 or something with these sliders. At the moment it's set to off, and that is because if you have a look at the description, when it says enhanced intelligence, that means they're going to be even more like godlike than they already are. As they're already high rated players, these star players on the CPU AI, they're already playing well anyway. They're already a threat. So to have them even more godlike, I guess, for want of a better phrase, is probably not advised. So at the moment that's off. I will keep tweaking with that though and see if there's any difference. Game speed is down to slow, and that's very important. This is what we're going to try and do. We need to slow the pace of the game down more to make it more realistic. Now, people are saying this season that the game speed is slow anyway. I disagree. I think even on normal, it's still way too fast, too arcadey, too skatey. You've got to try and shrink it down a little bit. So the game speed is on slow. Quick mention to the rules as well. I've got handball turned off, even though it would be more realistic to have it on. Anyone who watched my Dortmund career mode series will know it got to the point where handball just given all the time, even when the player can't help it. So ultimately we've got to have it off, because it just can't distinguish between what is and isn't handball. So worth bearing that in mind as well. Right then, onto the sliders themselves. Let's start off with the user sliders. There's a couple of differences between user and CPU sliders. So sprint speed and acceleration. Sprint speed is down to 38, but the acceleration is down to 44. Now, a quick word on the sprint speed. I've seen a lot of people who've done sliders put this right down to like 10, like 5, stuff like that, but still have the acceleration relatively high. Now, the reason why you shouldn't do that is because you find too much of a disparity between the two. What about players who have high acceleration and low sprint speed? And then what about players who have low sprint speed and high acceleration? There's too much of a disparity. For example, you'll find a lot of centre-backs on this game, particularly the more elite centre-backs, will have low acceleration but high sprint speed. what you're doing by slashing the sprint speed so low but keeping the acceleration relatively high is you're taking that away. So they're just going to be slow all the time, which means it's going to be easy for a fast player to just run in behind them, and that's what I found. So we turn this down. The reason why the acceleration isn't matching this at 38 is because once you lower this acceleration anywhere below really 44, once you get to 42, 40, etc., it's like really sluggish. The players feel like they're stuck in mud. It's not a great watch. So 44 was the lowest point I could get to before the players really started to feel like, oh my god, I can't run anymore. Again, we're just trying to prevent players from zipping around all the time and it really being too fast. So with the shot error then, for the user, it's on 58. And what we're trying to do here is just again try and make it a bit more difficult. You know, when people go in one-on-one, they always tell me just press B, just put your laces through it. It's so much easier. It's a lot overpowered, and that's what we're trying to alter there. So we move that to 58. It's worth bearing in mind that what I do a lot when I go through one-on-one is I'll always try and finesse it because that's more realistic. And if you want this kind of realistic, more challenging gameplay, you know, you should do that. You should try and do things like when you're through one-on-one, finesse it, you know, to side foot it and get more control over it rather than just putting your laces through it. But in that case, if you do, we move the shot error up to 58 to make it more of a challenge. The pass error is also on 58. Again, only affects ground passes, so you've got things like lob pass aren't affected. And this is why I do a disclaimer with sliders. They can't alter everything, unfortunately. The shot speed is on 50, and I found there weren't really much of an issue with the shot speed. It was more the pass speed I had a little tweak around, as you can see here. That's down to 48. In this case, just trying to match the fact that the sprint speed and acceleration is lower. You want to lower the pass speed a little bit because otherwise you're going to find the ball zipping off and the players not being able to keep up with it. So we do just move this one down a little bit just for a little tweak. The injury frequency is up to 74, and I found this to be a nice balance because you'd occasionally in games get players going down with injuries. You know, in fact, in my career mode series, both Dortmund and Barcelona ones, you know, we've had players get injured in the game, and as a result, this was a nice balance. This number around this ballpark figure 74 was good because when it went to 80 plus, I found players just going down all the time. And then when it was on 70, not really enough. So I had a mess around with it and I found 74 to be a nice balance. You don't want players going down every game. That's a thing. But some games, you know, a player might go down and have to be subbed. So that's worth bearing in mind there. Moving down the list, severity, goalkeeper ability, all on 50. I've not tweaked with them. EA have done a lot of messing around with the goalkeepers as well. So I've tried to stay off that whilst they're still undecided themselves. The marking is actually moved up to 58. Now, it probably could have been higher, to be honest, but it gets to the point where you got fullbacks marking their wingers, and the wingers are still back there and they're all the way 50 yards back and the ball's in your defensive third. So that's why I've tried to stay clear of going somewhere above 60. With 58, it's a little bit tighter. There is still issues, there are still issues, but 58 just makes it a bit better. The run frequency is actually down to 24, and this is going to make it slightly less end-to-endy. That's what it does a good job of. Obviously, when you're altering your tactics, you've got players on getting behind, you might have forward runs on, you're going to have that. But at the moment, at 24, we found it to be nicely poised so that it's not too, just again, arcadey, very FIFA end-to-endy like. With these line heights and stuff, on the user gameplay, I've actually kept these at 50, and the reason why is that obviously you're going to be altering your tactics and your player instructions, so it's going to be based around that, so there's no need to really tweak with these because, again, when you're changing your tactics, you might set a higher line, you might set a deeper line, you know, that sort of stuff will influence it, so you don't need to influence your team's, you know, sort of line and stuff through the sliders. Finally, with the first touch control area, this is up to 75. I found my players, you know, starting to struggle to control the ball a bit more in certain aspects. You know, I didn't want it too high because, again, you know, it became a little bit too much to deal with and the gameplay started to become not as enjoyable. But with 75, I found it so that players, you know, do find it harder to control. Now, there are some changes with the CPU, as you'll notice here. The sprint speed, acceleration, all the same. The pass error is the same. The shot speed, the pass speed is the same. The only thing that's different here is the shot error. This is actually up to 66. And what I found is that even on 66, there is still a case of just the CPU AI just shooting from anywhere and scoring. And so it's a big problem. They'll always do normal shots as well. They won't really do finesse shots, so it's worth bearing in mind that this is going to influence the majority of their shots. But with shot error up to 66, you're going to make it a bit easier on yourself. They're not as prone to being able to just score from anywhere. Big help, honestly. Going down the list, a lot of things all the same. The injury frequency all the same, that stuff. Positioning, marking as well. Run frequency as well. The only thing we did change is the line height. I've lowered this to 40. Obviously, you can't really influence and impact the CPU's tactics, so I wanted a little tweak here. I've dropped this to 40 to make it a little bit deeper, to make it a little bit harder for you to run in behind, because obviously that's how a lot of goals are scored. Just balls in behind, players running in, and that's how they score. So with this dropped a little bit, it does give a little bit more leniency towards protecting against that. Just to notice, if you're playing on world class, let's say you want to make it a little bit more difficult, but you don't want to make the step up to legendary just yet, what you can do is increase your shot error up a little bit and your pass error as well, and then just decrease their shot error a little bit as well. Not too much though. Something like 60 will be alright for the CPU shot error and for your shot error as well. Don't want too much. You don't want to mess with the balance much, is what I've found. But ultimately, that's only a case for if you're on world class and you don't want to make the step up to legendary yet, but you are finding it a little bit easier to do. Right then guys, that's going to round it off for version 1.0 of my realistic sliders. I appreciate some stuff has been left untouched, but as I say, over the course of FIFA 22, we'll keep tweaking my stuff, keep changing it, and I'll release more videos if and when there have been major changes to the sliders. Let me know how you find these sliders. If you've got any improvements that you'd like me to make, you feel something's not right, there's a weird balance, please let me know. Don't just get at me in the comments saying these are shite, what is this. Please say what it is that you'd like me to improve, what you feel maybe isn't working, what is working. Obviously a lot of people have different play styles and stuff. I like to be very patient, be very sort of calculated in my approach, try and be as realistic as possible. You guys might have a different style though, so if you've got any suggestions, do let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you get notifications every time I upload. Currently got a Dortmund and Barcelona career mode series ongoing, as well as my FIFA 22 custom tactics series as well, where we recreate real tactics. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description, such as my Patreon, where you can get access to great perks and rewards, as well as my Twitter. Give me a follow on there. And my second channel, Brahma Ball, where we're covering Football Manager 2022 videos. Check out the affiliate links where you can get access to my gaming custom build PC parts, my equipment, all of my gear. Great way to support the channel, as I do get a little kickback from that. And on that note, we're going to round it off there. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Ash, and until next time, I will see you soon.